In this video, we want to extend our server so that instead of giving a response hello world to any arbitrary request, it will give the response hello and then the name provided in the request parameter. So to give an example of what that would look like, let's make a request tab to our server. And I've added the parameter, well, rather the parameter and value. I've added the parameter and value name equals 1 to the query string, and I get that response back. Now, the first step in adding this functionality is to create a unit test. Now, that unit test will follow this same request response pattern. In this unit test, we'll have a number of requests, and they'll include the query string, for example, name equals 1, and we expect to get hello 1. And then another request, for example, will include the query string name equals 2, and we'll expect to see we expect to see the response hello 2. And then, for example, we can have a request with no name to check that the base functionality still works, and that will give the response hello world. Now, to see what change we made here to the test file, let's have a look. So we see that we've included the same number of requests as before, but two of them have these name parameters in the query string. So we have name equals 1, name equals 2, and then another request without any query string. And then when we scroll down, we see that we're expecting to get the response hello 1 when we supply that parameter 1 as the name, and we expect to see the response hello 2 when we supply the response, or when we supply the name 2, and then we expect to get just hello world when no name is given in the query string. So let's check that works. Great, that works. Now, in order to create the logic, well, what we'll do now is create the logic that makes that test pass, right? So in order to do that, let's look at some functions that we can use to build this function, this handler. The first function we're going to look at is the identity function. Now, the identity function simply takes an argument and returns the argument. Okay, now that's important to know as we move on to the next section here. Now, we want to explicitly take out the parameter from the request and then do some logic on it. Remember, we want to return a response that is comprised of that parameter if it exists, right? So in order to do that, we're going to use the function, the middleware params. So let's do that. Ring.middleware.params as params. Okay, so now we're going to use this function called wrapparams. Now, what this function does, and we're going to use identity function here, is this is what this function does. When you call wrapparams with a handler, it returns another handler that does this. So again, wrapparams takes a handler as an argument and returns another handler, which is just a function again that takes a request. But it will take the request and then pass the params in that request, the query params rather, in that request. Sorry, rather, it will pass the query string in that request, and it will update that request with some extra fields that include that past request. Okay, so input that past query string rather. So let's see how that works in practice. So I'm only going to supply the query string because that's all we really are concerned about here. So name equals 1. And I'm going to use the function pprint to make this a bit more clearer to see. So again, we supply it with a query string, and we can see that the identity function has been called here. But what wrap_params does is it takes this identity function and it returns another. It takes its handler, in our case the identity function, and it returns another handler that takes the request, adds these fields, and we only care about params and query params there, that are the result of passing this query string. So again, wrap_params takes a handler and it creates another handler that takes the request, updates the field, and then passes it to the original handler, which is the identity function in our case. So let's walk through that bit by bit. So params is going to, this new function rather, again takes the request, passes the query string, adds these new values, which contain, in our case, we care about the query params, right? Which contain our past query string, PARSED, right? Past. Now, this is going to be a map of key value pairs. And that's important to us because now we can easily get that to use in our handler, right? Now, in order to use that, we're going to use the let function, let statement, and then we can do this, right? So what I'm going to do is define something called, I'm going to bind the variable rec to this function here, rather. Okay, and then just pass rec to see that works. Okay, now what I'm going to do is use a function called getIn. Now what getIn does, it takes a map and then a nested map, and then it takes a path, right, or a list of keys, right, and these keys are essentially a path to the value that you want to get, or to the value that you want to get in this nested map. So in our case, it will be query params first of all, right? That's the first one, and then we want to get the another level down called name. Go another level down and use the key name. We can see there that we get what we want. Now, if any of these keys are not valid or they don't exist, then it will return nil. That's important because we want to check if the parameter name has been supplied to our request, has been included in our request, right? If it has, then use it and return hello in the name. If it doesn't, then return just hello world. And we can see that in our logic here. So if we go to our logic in the code, so this is our handler, our new handler. And again, we're using wrap_params here and the identity function to update those values on the request. Update the request to have a new past query string. Then once we do that, we take that name, and if the name's nil, that means that parameter was not supplied, and we just return hello world. If it doesn't, then we return the string hello. If it does rather, then we return the string hello and then the name value. And then we take this greeting, we place it in our response, and that's all.